Have you ever spent days or even weeks trying to make just one decision? Maybe it's hiring someone, leaving a job, raising your prices, starting the business, ending the relationship, having the difficult conversation, setting the boundary. And you spend so much time researching everything. You make pro and con lists, you ask your mentor, you talk with your partner, your spouse, your best friend, your therapist, and you wait until you feel ready. And somehow, after all of that, you never feel more clear or more confident. And if that's you, I want you to know something. Your problem isn't that you don't have enough information. Your problem is that you don't trust yourself enough. And so today, I want to show you why overthinking isn't an information problem, it's a self-trust problem. And learning how to become more decisive might be one of the biggest accelerators to your personal and professional success. But first, let's talk about why this matters. So one of the biggest differences I see between women who stay stuck and women who continue to go on and create bigger and better results isn't necessarily just intelligence or capability. It isn't experience, it isn't talent. What it is speed. The most effective leaders make decisions faster. That's it. And it's not that they're reckless or impulsive, it's because they trust themselves. And every single day, you're making hundreds of decisions from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. Some are small and some are big and have significant consequences, but every decision you postpone carries a cost. There's this obvious opportunity cost, such as the promotion you didn't apply for, the business you don't launch, the clients you don't sign, or the investments you never make. But there is also another cost that people never think about. And this is when every single time you repeatedly tell yourself, I just need more information before I can decide. What you're doing is quietly but very powerfully reinforcing the belief that you can't trust yourself. And that is way more expensive than any opportunity cost that you're going to experience up front. And also, let me say this before we keep diving in. Most people think confidence comes after certainty, right? After you quote unquote know what to do. And that lie is what keeps you in the loop of consuming information, continuing to gather data. You read another book, you listen to another podcast, you take another course, you listen to another person's opinion. And what ends up happening is you stay stuck because you stay in preparation instead of action, because the preparation feels productive, but it's not. What ends up happening is that same preparation ends up becoming avoidance. And again, unintentionally, a consequence of that is that the more opinions you collect, the harder it becomes to hear your own. You begin outsourcing your confidence, and instead of asking yourself what you think and what you need and what you want, you start asking everyone else what they would do, and they're giving you their opinion of what would work for them, and then you are applying it to your own life and feeling confused as to why it's not feeling good. This is why. And here's what the research tells us, by the way. So there's a psychologist, his name is Barry Schwartz, and he has spent years studying decision making. And what he has found is that often more options, more information, more data doesn't necessarily or automatically improve our decisions. In fact, it often increases anxiety, indecision, regret, and second guessing. And another important concept that backs this up is this idea of satisficing. So instead of trying to make the perfect decision, effective decision makers make a decision that is good enough based on the information available in the moment. And then they just adjust as they learn more, because you are never going to have all the information quote unquote needed. You're never going to have the perfect plan. You're never going to have absolute certainty or clarity, but waiting for that is going to contribute to the stagnation, because when you chronically delay decisions, you're not becoming more wise. You're not becoming more ready. You're not becoming more confident. You're becoming more doubtful, and you're teaching your nervous system that uncertainty is dangerous, and you're subconsciously reinforcing the belief that making a mistake isn't safe and that you can't make decisions until X, Y, and Z, which always keeps growing as a list, right? And over time, you become incredibly knowledgeable and capable, but overly cautious, which is what contributes to your growth being stunted and you bottlenecking your own success and what you can actually achieve. And this is something, unfortunately, I see all the time in the women that I coach. They are extremely intelligent, they are experienced, they are capable, they are successful, and they are totally able in the moment to lead the team, grow the business, make the investment, have the difficult conversation, make the move, leave the relationship. But again, they bottleneck their own success. They slow down their own growth and they cap their accomplishments because they don't trust themselves enough to make the move. And so the reframe here is to change the goal. The goal isn't to make perfect decisions or to feel totally confident and clear. The goal here is to become someone who can handle whatever happens after the decision is made. Your confidence shouldn't come from predicting the future. It should come from knowing you will figure it out regardless of what happens. That is self-trust. It's trusting yourself more than the plan. And it's not believing that you'll never make mistakes. Self-trust is believing that you'll recover from them if and when they happen. So here's the framework I teach a lot of my coaching clients. It's super simple. And if you take notes, write this down. It's make a good enough decision with the information you have right now and pivot if you need to later. There are 4 embedded steps in that one sentence. Let's go ahead and break it down and walk through it. So first, you want to commit to making a choice. I know that sounds crazy and stupid simple, but think about it. Your self-talk isn't, I'm going to make this decision. It's asking yourself questions that you don't have answers to, such as, what if this happens? Would it be best to this or that? I need to know this first. Your brain is focused on what could go wrong, trying to predict the future, gathering more information, and exploring alternatives versus deciding. And that is what keeps you stuck in waiting around for the perfect plan, waiting around for this clear process, waiting around to feel ready versus just being courageous, feeling prepared, and being committed to making a decision. Because again, the goal is to make a good enough decision. That was embedded in that sentence, not this imaginary, elusive, perfect one. So step 1 is being in conviction that you're making a choice, period. And then step 2 is only when needed will you gather enough information to make a choice, not get sucked into this endless consumption loop. So ask yourself, what do I know for sure right now? How can I just start today? What evidence do I have to make an informed decision? Do I have enough data to make a thoughtful decision today? It's about being informed versus controlling the outcome, which you can't do anyway in 99% of the circumstances. So stop wasting precious time attempting to do that. Remember, gathering more information and opinions more times than not just adds to the confusion and drowns out your own thoughts. I tell this to women I work with all the time. 9 out of 10 times you already know what you want to do. Just do it, okay? The third step that's embedded in that one sentence is to make the most informed decision you can with the information you have right now. Not what you'll have tomorrow, not what you'll know in 6 months, not after you have the conversation, not after you talk to your best friend. What do you know today? Stop unnecessarily delaying decisions and eroding your self-trust and blocking your success by waiting. And here is the last step embedded in that one sentence. Commit to the decision. Stop reopening the case every 24 hours and constantly reevaluating the same decision over and over again. That unintentionally destroys your confidence and is actually just another form of indecision. I talk about this a lot, but indecision shows up in 2 ways. It is the inability to make a decision, and then it can show up as the inability to honor a decision. So it's not just the apprehension around making a choice, but it's the inability to honor the ones that you have made. And I'm not saying every choice and every decision is going to be perfect, but this is where that self-trust comes into play. You can adjust when new information becomes available as you take action, because decisive people aren't people who never get it wrong or never have to pivot. They're the people who don't confuse pivoting with making a bad decision and making it mean something about them. So let me give you an example to really bring this home. I work with a woman who had been offered an executive leadership opportunity, and she wanted it badly, and she had the experience. This is something that she had been working towards professionally, and her colleagues believed in her, but she had spent months trying to decide whether she should apply for the position. She kept asking more colleagues, more friends, talking about it in our coaching sessions, reviewing the job description online and all the roles and the responsibilities, and looking for reassurance that it was the right move. And what we uncovered in our coaching is that it wasn't a lack of information around the role per se, but it was a lack of self-trust that she could do the role. She believed that if she made the wrong decision, it would mean that she wasn't capable and that she would be embarrassed and laughed out of the job and not be able to pivot professionally, and it would be the end of all of her hard work. And once we identified that and worked on rebuilding her self-trust, instead of chasing certainty or reassurance or readiness, something shifted. She made the decision, scared, but still made the decision, and she stopped ruminating, and the decision bias kicked in, and she applied, interviewed, and got accepted for the role and figured it out as she went. It didn't mean that she didn't make mistakes. It didn't mean that there wasn't a learning curve. It didn't mean that she didn't feel overwhelmed at points, but she never reevaluated the decision. And something even more important happened after all of that. The next decision that came across her desk took her days instead of months. Then hours instead of days. And what was really cool is that we saw this pattern trickle into her personal life as well throughout our coaching together, because every decision she made became evidence that she could trust herself. And that is how you build self-trust, not by thinking, but by experiencing yourself making decisions, adapting, and realizing you can trust yourself. You are more resilient than you give yourself credit for. And here's one exercise I want you to practice this week if this topic is really resonating with you. The next time you feel stuck on a decision, ask yourself these 3 questions. Number 1, what information do I already have to make a thoughtful and informed decision? Number 2, am I looking for clarity or certainty? And how can I trust myself enough to make a choice today? And if this decision didn't work out, here's the 3rd question. How can I trust myself enough to figure it out? And then make the decision. Because remember that one statement with the 4 steps embedded in it. How can I make a good enough decision with the information I have right now and pivot if I need to later? Because that's the skill you're actually trying to build. And if today's episode resonated with you, I hope that you stop trying to be someone who never makes mistakes and starts becoming someone who trusts themselves enough to make them, to learn from them, and keep moving forward. That is going to shift everything for you, how you lead, how quickly you reach your goals, and how confidently you show up. And it's going to allow you to create bigger professional success faster without sacrificing your health, your relationships, and yourself in the process. And if you realize that self-doubt, overthinking, rumination, or quietly bottlenecking your success, I would love to help you. As you can tell, this is exactly what I do with my one-on-one coaching clients. And together we identify what's actually keeping you stuck, what's slowing you down, what's holding you back. And we help you build that self-trust from the inside out and create sustainable success in your career, in your health, and in your relationships without all of that burnout and self-sacrifice. You can book a consultation through the link in my show notes to learn more. And as always, if you found today's episode helpful, please leave us a 5-star review, share on your socials, and hit subscribe so that you never miss another episode to help you master the art and skill of coaching.